Hello everybody, welcome to Complainy McComplainerson, complaining about things that everyone else is gonna praise, but I figured since I know every single high tier creator is going to praise Bungie to the ends of the earth and back about the Crota's End raid, that I would be someone who would just make a video or explaining the thoughts of me, my raid group, or at least the general sentiment by the end of the raid, and just why I think Crota's End was over-designed, and what I think could be done to fix it, and why I think if they want to, for Final Shape, make it actually good, like make Final Shape, like the Final Shape raid actually good, they should hopefully, dial it back a little bit and not try and be like so wonderful with it. But yeah, let's see. In general, I believe the main crux of the problem can be seen with this little thing floating next to me. Like, the chalice is fine, but there's a couple issues with it that I think push Crota past the realm of good design and to over design. And the main things are, or like the main thing that if they removed it tomorrow, the raid would be infinitely better for it, is the 10-second death timer at the end. There is no reason that the chalice should kill you when it's charged. The encounter will already wipe you. Every single encounter will already wipe you if you take too long. Like, the first encounter has a timer on it that will wipe you in 50 seconds. The third encounter has a timer on it that will start the DPS before you're ready and will wipe you if you don't damage gate the ear ute. And Crota has his oversoul timer that will destroy you if you take too long. There is no reason that the chalice has to kill you, and it just makes the entire encounter, like every single encounter in this raid, incredibly overbearing and completely kills all fun inside of it. At least for me and at least half of my raid group. For reference, this is someone, as you can see on the top of my screen, me and my raid group 24-houred King's Fall. We had a blast. It took us until 8 a.m. We stayed up all night to get that emblem. It was a really fun time, and I think King's Fall is one of their best redesigned raids, and everything about it was just made better and more engaging. But when it comes to Crota's End, because there's that 10-second timer, it creates a large amount of deflation in any raid group the moment someone says, "Oh, I'm dead," and then they have a heart attack and fall over because the chalice kills them. And it's like, I understand the reason having it there is to create a sense of urgency and to, as I heard Fallout Plays put it, have people sit up in their gaming chair. But I personally don't find timers engaging. I'm fine with an overarching timer to try and keep people moving, but I utterly despise having a thing that says you're just dead if you don't pay attention to this for a second, especially on something that increases the bar to filling the more I kill things. I'm a person who is very heavily into the combat of this game. I enjoy the combat challenge of this game. I enjoy running GMs with combat challenge. And when I'm told that I shouldn't kill things too fast because people won't be ready to take the thing from me if I do, that is really stupid, and I don't like it. And neither did so many people in the day one, I can tell you straight. It is not very effective, and I think instead, if you just remove that timer, the raid is infinitely better for it, because suddenly, instead of it being a detriment to kill people, it is a positive to kill people, and you're encouraged to do it so you can make the encounter go faster. And it's just everything is better overall if you do that. And that's the main thing I wanted to say. Like, that's, I think, the main change that needs to happen. I have, however, like, thought of a completely separate way of doing this, though, that removes the chalice and enlightenment from the first two encounters. So I'm going to go into that now. If you're fine with what I've said already, au revoir to thee, but here is how I'd redesign the raid if I had the capability to do so. In the first encounter, as stated, this chalice, like, the point of it would just be to take this chalice. Basically, the point of it is, I would think, like, we're taking the chalice and we're charging it with our light. But we don't have it charged yet because of the imposing presence of Crota and something of that. You can describe it however you want in the lore. But basically, all we have right now is the chalice. The enlightenment timer isn't a part of it. And you just grab the chalice. Once the chalice is on top of the plate over there, that starts the bridge. And then you just build the bridge, go down, and you're good. And then once you're in the throwaway, the only goal is to take the chalice and have the chalice move to different podiums. Like how right now when you get a podium and it lights up the next couple of plates, or like it lights up the next couple of lanterns, just have it do that. That, like, the goal is to get to the next podium within the 50 odd seconds that you have that, or to get to the next podium. Like, maybe increase the time. You would have to increase the timer a bit, but then, so the whole goal is to actually encourage people to get through the encounter quickly instead of discourage going through the encounter quickly, which is what is currently being done with both the optional triumph and just the chalice in general, saying, okay, just sit at this lantern for the next 50 minutes while I wait for this stupid thing to get to the light bulb, and then, okay, now I can finally dunk it in, and someone can take it from me. I can finally dunk it in, and it actually, like, encourages speed instead of discouraging it. Once you dunk all of the receptacles and dunk at the end, the goal is to just survive until the bridge is built. You can probably send a lot more enemies at us now because we're not fucking dealing with a chalice, so you can have like a bunch of ogres come and try and blast our asses and spawn a huge wave of thrall and actually make the encounter interesting instead of it being literally AFK simulator, because I think that's the main issue that I have with the raid, is the fact that because this chalice and this timer is here, the combat in this raid is so incredibly simple and just super easy to do, but you still fail because the chalice just says you do. But so anyway, that's the first encounter. Once you're done with that, second encounter, it gets augmented to where basically we're charging the chalice with sword logic to match with the season. So now we take the chalice, and whoever has the chalice on their person can pick up a sword. The person that goes over, and then you run over, and then because you can pick up the sword and drop it, you don't have to worry about getting your ass beat by all the fucking enemies that spawn out of the doors. So you can deal with them at your leisure while hopefully not dying. You then, once you kill the sword bearer and dunk the sword, you can then dunk the chalice in the podium at the back of the room. That will then teleport it back to the other side, and the cycle repeats. You would then need to increase the number of swords from 5 to 6. But once everyone gets properly moved over. Like everything else about the totems and everything stays the same. You have to stand on all three in order to build the bridge, and otherwise you get imploded and stuff like that. And then once you get everyone across, the last person dunks their sword. Once 6 swords are dunked, you run over, you dunk the chalice into the receptacle. A ton of enemies spawn in, like all the ogres and everything. And once you deal with all of them, some message appears saying like the chalice beckons your logic to be shown, or something like that. Everyone becomes enlightened, and everyone becomes enlightened. You grab the swords from their podiums and you slap the living shit out of all the gatekeepers that spawn in. Once they're all dead, you are happy and you win. This creates the cool thing where, like in D1, everyone got a sword instead of like right now where maybe 3, maybe 4 people get a sword, and then like everyone else is just kind of like, cool, the gatekeepers are here, I guess. I'll throw a suspend there, cool. I'll AFK in the corner, I guess. While also introducing the enlightened mechanic while not making it like obscene and like tying it into a lore reason in the raid. Once you complete that whole thing, we then learn the enlightened mechanic fully in the next section. This next section would change to where you can't miss the secret chest anymore, because like everyone knows it's there. It would be cool to both fix this and like this whole loop, while also encouraging people to go get it. So you just take the chalice appears. It's now charged with both light and the sword logic, or your light and the sword logic. Pick up the chalice. You now see that you have this bar on your person, and you run forward and you kill things, and the bar jumps forward, and you're like, oh cool, the bar is jumping forward, I should maybe do this. Once it maxes out, it like gives you a prompt and like just a general like thing and then suddenly that's when suddenly people can take it from you, and it's like, okay, and then that encourages people to go like, oh, I can take it, maybe I should do that. You take it, suddenly you get enlightened, and you're like, oh cool, that's fun. So, and you run through the barrier because you hopefully assume that you need to do that. Kill the Shrieker, barrier falls, the next person with it goes like, oh, I should kill things now. Kills things, runs through the barrier, kills Shrieker, and then dunks it. And if they're fast enough, then the door opens and you're good. If they aren't fast enough, then like some big red thing appears on the screen, like Crota's presence engulfs you or some garbage, and you just immediately get eviscerated and pop back to the beginning until you figure it out. That way, this encourages people to figure out how the chalice works. Also, during this, enlightenment in general, as I just said at the beginning of the video, it no longer kills you after 10 seconds. You can just communicate when you need it to be taken, and then people can take it when they need to, in order, making it not absolutely horrendous to try and deal with. But yeah, so after you get through that section of a mass amount of things, you drop down, you're like, okay, cool, we figured out how this chalice works, and there's we figured out how this chalice works. Where is this chalice? Run out to Ear-Ute, and Ear-Ute is pretty much exactly the same, except you remove the timer on the chalice, because as stated, you are already on an encounter timer that will start the dark lethargy or something, or ligrigi, something like that. And that will start just regardless of how quickly you do everything anyway. So it would be nice if you could have people encouraged to kill things so that they can get their thing active, and then they're like, okay, I have enough kills, someone take this off me, someone takes it, and then they go running off to their location instead of just AFKing in a corner with their timer, because if they aren't communicating, I'm in my last bar, and someone isn't taking it within the next 15 seconds, then they're freaking hosed and die. And and then you just have to wipe, and it's like, okay, cool, that's fun. So let's not do that, and instead just, again, encourage slaying out, and can summon more enemies to actually make the encounter fun and hard, instead of having to keep the enemy density, like, fine, but not really great, because instead you're just having to run around and not really do much of anything while you wait for while you wait for everyone to get their stuff in order. But then, yeah, after that, like, Yuryud is, again, the same without the thing, and then Crota is pretty much exactly the same, but again, with the timer removed, because, again, the Oversoul is going to kill you, and there's also the stupid thing now in Crota's room where you can only trade in the particular receptacle locations, and none of them are in cover, and it's like, okay, thank you, game, I guess we'll just die every other time we try to do this, and then have to restart the encounter, because you literally have to stand out in the open, and if you happen to get your thing charged accidentally because you decided to, God forbid, throw a grenade, and someone has to immediately run over and take it from you, you'll just instantly die to Crota or something, and you're like, okay, cool, then we just restart, and it's not fun. So instead, being able to not have a timer on that, and instead just actually coordinate, okay, I'm charged, take Crota's aggro, do X other thing, let's trade, we traded, fantastic. That would be just infinitely better to me and makes so much more sense. And then just the general finish of Crota, and like everything else about it's fine. Someone gets enlightenment so they can shoot the Oversoul, that's fine. And you just finish the raid after that, and you're like, cool, and you aren't exhausted because you're exhausted, but you're exhausted in a good way because you ran around destroying everything and, like, still doing mechanics, but doing mechanics in a way that actually, like, encouraged you to play the video game instead of doing mechanics in a way that encouraged you to AFK in a corner and not play the video game. And it's like, yeah, I think that would be just a whole better everything when it comes to just Crota's End. But again, if they just removed the 10 seconds and you die timer, Crota's End right now would also still be fine. But it's just that 10 seconds, that's the major part that is just heavily over-designed, because that timer doesn't need to be there. It just adds an added layer of, oh, I got kicked. Yay. It adds an added layer of just annoyance, and I don't enjoy it. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about just Crota's End being, annoying. As stated, this is coming from a player who has done day ones before. I got a whole host of various emblems of such things, and on other characters I have more and whatnot. And as stated, I think Taken King was fantastic in what they did with the combat challenge, along with the mechanical challenge. But I think Crota's End was a miss specifically because of that chalice death timer. And I think if they want to make the final shape raid not terrible, they'll focus on, if they're going to have timers, have just one big overarching timer that you want to do all the mechanics inside of, and not having just a bunch of little tiny timers that just kill you and wipe the entire team effectively just because you weren't paying attention to them for a couple of seconds. Because it's important to remember that this is a first-person shooter. We're supposed to be as engaged with the combat as we are with the mechanics. We aren't supposed to just be AFKing in the corner and ignoring everything just to make a mechanic work. There's a reason Spire of Stars was hated, and I think for a majority of the casual player base, Crota's End will probably be, at the very least, lukewarm unliked, if not just outright hated, because of this mechanic. But other than that, I think that's it from me, and give me give me the Oversoul stuff on a per encounter basis, because holy flip, trying to get 20 of these is insane. But yeah, good night.